No worries, no bamboozle, I promise. How are you guys doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the 8th episode of the Osu Coffee Hour. This episode, we're gonna be diving into the history of Osu Taiko. So welcome, thank you so much for joining us. Bit of a dry throat. Hope you guys are doing well. I did do a little bit of a bamboozle. I accidentally, wrongly put in the time in the news article on the site. So if you were bamboozled by that, I'm just gonna say April Fools. It's always a good cop out. So that's I'm aware. Yeah, it's a big mug. It's 6 a.m. so I do need a lot of my coffee. So if you're unaware what this is, we're gonna go dive into we're gonna have Karterfreak and Raiden join us to go over the history of Osu Taiko. And after that, we're gonna be diving into the live drawings for the Taiko World Cup 2018. So that'll be coming up after this. So if you're here for that, that'll be about an hour-ish, a little bit less than an hour. Let me get these guys in here. Hello, Mr. Karterfreak and Mr. Raiden. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Yourself?
Doing pretty good. Waking up. What time is it for you, Karterfreak? Because you're Canadian, right?
It's 9:14 right now. So a little bit later than you're at right now.
Okay, you're like in the possibility sphere of being awake at 9. All right. How are you doing, Raiden?
Hello there. I'm doing quite fine. If it wasn't for a little sore throat, but I'm fine. I'm really.
Everyone is sick. Carter, you were sick?
Oh, I was so sick yesterday. You have no idea.
So if anything, it was good that we kind of postponed it, because it was kind of shaky as to if you would be able to hang out.
Yeah, everyone would be hearing more coughing than they would about the history of Taiko. It would have been terrible.
And we wouldn't be able to drink coffee.
Yo, so let's start with you, Carter. Tell us a little bit about your history with Taiko, when you started, what got you started, what got you into Osu in the first place, kind of your journey throughout.
Okay, so when I first started, I actually wasn't into the Taiko stuff. I was more into like the standard game mode, because I came in from Elite Beat Agents, and I learned about Taiko basically about 4 months after I started playing.
Okay.
Watching a player named Fion play with Flashlight, which really impressed me at the time.
Right.
So
as it would in any game mode.
Yeah. So I'm like, I gotta learn how to do this. Started learning how to play Taiko in kind of unorthodox way. We'll talk about that a little later. And well, here I am today. It's been a interesting ride so far.
Because what year was that?
That was 2012.
2012. Okay. All right. Yeah. So kind of like the usual way that people get into other game modes. I feel generally people start out with standard and then kind of float over into other modes after trying it out. What's your journey been community wise? Just the stuff you've done.
So I got into the BAT. I was one of the first Taiko BAT. That was like 2013, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And from there, I was just doing kind of like general staff things. I was helping out with commentary for the Taiko World Cups. I was doing the Osu Weekly for a little while.
Okay.
And then I kind of lost interest in the staff-related stuff and just kind of did the more playing thing after that.
The playing thing?
Yeah, you know, playing the game. Who does that?
What the hell?
But yeah, I kind of get out of the staff stuff as much. I was still GMT. I was like moderating Taiko channel and whatnot, but that was about it.
All right. Okay. And now you're largely still playing?
Semi-actively.
Semi-actively.
I'm only going to be playing in the Taiko World Cup again, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So I was Raiden. Both of these guys are going to be playing in the Taiko World Cup, funnily enough. Yeah, Raiden, how about you? When did you start? What's your journey been so far?
Yeah, just like you said, I originally started in standard in 2013, I think.
Okay.
And in late 2014, I randomly decided to filter by country, and I saw a carry, which was one of the top players by then. And
Okay.
I spectated him, and I was like, "Oh, this looks cool. This looks cool. Let's try to play it." And that's
How did that go?
That's basically how it went.
Okay, all right. I think it's always so intimidating to start something else, like another game mode, because generally the first couple of hours, it's like, how does this even? Because your brain doesn't have the connection, right, to play. I've been playing a lot of different game modes over the past few weeks, so it's always interesting to me how people get started on the other modes, especially once you start out with standard. Community-wise, how did you go through? Yeah, what was your journey community-wise?
It was actually the journey from the community-wise was basically, at first I just interacted with my Spanish companions.
Right.
And then on June 2015, I think it was, I started getting interested into mapping. And then I basically no-lived an entire summer modding.
Oh damn!
And
Okay.
Basically, I think I did like more than 100 mods in 2 months.
Okay.
And yeah,
Just from nothing?
Yeah, basically. And on October 2015, I became nominated.
Okay.
And I was nominated until October 2017. Basically 2 years, exact 2 years, I think.
Okay.
And then I was promoted to the QAT.
Okay. And that's what you still do to this very day.
Basically.
Okay. It's funny how 2012 sounds so recent, at least in my ears, but that's 6 years ago. So
It does.
both of you, yeah, you guys have been playing for 5 and 6 years respectively, which is a long time. Okay. All right. So that's the guy's history, if you were wondering. Our layout for today, in terms of how we're gonna go over things a little bit, we'll start out with the mode's history itself, how it came to be, because initially it might be a meme that it's a mini game, but it started out as a mini game, so there is some truth to that.
Definitely.
Then going into the mapping development, because that's always an interesting journey, how you go from, well, a mini game and how, because you got to make standards for how that works, what is acceptable, and then that develops over time. Couple of tournaments stuff, largely World Cups, because I don't think there's a very large community scene, right, in terms of...
apart from Last Man Standing, I think there are no really
there
big
was-
tournament.
Like Last Man Standing, Don Cat, a couple of smaller tournaments that were held. Not a whole lot of community tournaments, unfortunately.
Okay. All right. So, let's start at the beginning, or the genesis, early 2009.
All right. So, truth of the matter is this was around the time that I wasn't even playing the game yet. So, my history here is a little bit skewed. I was kind of hoping we would have Ono here for this.
Sure, yeah. Again, sorry to interrupt you. Quick shout out to Onosaki for gathering a lot of the information. He wanted to be on the coffee hour, but his schedule didn't allow it. So, quick shout out to him for helping out.
Yeah, Ono is awesome and should feel awesome for being such a huge help to the Taiko community in general. But for the Genesis, so you're saying around early 2009, Taiko actually was a mod back then. So it was literally no different than Hidden or Hard Rock. You literally would just select it. There was no leaderboards. There was no anything like that. It was just mod. That's it.
Yeah.
And basically, you only had converts. So when I say converts, I mean a difficulty that was converted from a standard difficulty to a Taiko difficulty. That's all there was.
Right. We have a video of that. I'm gonna hold on. Last time I played a video on the coffee hour, I blew everyone's ears out. So I'm gonna try not to repeat that.
Okay, I'll give you your moment to set that up here.
Okay. That's playing as we speak. Cyclone number 2. That's crazy. But this is like, it says it on the lower left even. 2009. Got the special tab.
This is this video actually is before or after Taiko was taken from the mod status into the special tab. So
okay. All right. So
there
this
was
is
actually
okay.
like an even older version of Taiko than this, but so that version that's in the video shows that Taiko with the old client was listed under the special tab along with Catch the Beat.
Right.
It's around the time where we started having people such as Aquablue and Aquablue's crew. I don't really know everybody. I know Aquablue and Sakura. That's about it.
Sure.
And Crystal Sukun.
Crystal Sukun, yeah, thank you. There was a couple other people. I can't remember the names. I don't really, like I said, I don't know the old history. But they were the guys that came in. Were like, okay, we're gonna make some Taiko difficulties. So what they did is they came in. They took some of the authentic stuff that already existed from Taiko no Tatsujin, which is the game Taiko in Os is based off of.
Right. If you were unaware.
Yeah. So they started making difficulties based off of the Taiko no Tatsujin difficulties. So that's where like we started getting our first set of maps for the game mode that weren't just converted maps. And it definitely helped for players getting into the game. I remember, this is a little bit later on, but I remember when I first started getting in, I actually ended up playing a lot of the maps that were done by Aquablue and like Code. They're just
he's kind of like the grandfather of mapping for Taiko.
Yeah, like the great granddaddy of Taiko right there. you got to respect Aquablue and Code. They did a lot for the game.
How does it? If you watch like the really old stuff, what goes through your mind? Is it like this is so easy, or this is like, I don't know, because when you for standard, I know that if you look at really old stuff, it's like, how did people ever play this?
I remember with the like old Elite Beat Agent skins and stuff like that for standard. That was great.
Yeah.
So with the older stuff, a lot of people used an authentic skin that was done by Luigi Han, and there was another one that was done by somebody else. I can't remember the name, unfortunately. I'm sorry, whoever that was.
He's screaming right now.
Yeah, clearly. A lot of people would use that skin, so the game was kind of skinned very similar to what you would see for Taiko no Tatsujin.
Right.
As for the difficulty of the songs and stuff, the difficulty of the songs was pretty mediocre. I mean, obviously the player skill hadn't exactly gotten up there yet.
Sure.
But I mean, for its time, they were challenging maps. We had something to work with that wasn't just converts, which for anyone that doesn't know, converts in Taiko are pretty bad. So
I think that anyone in any mode would say that. I've never heard anyone say anything positive about a convert. I mean, it's a hard concept to begin with, so it's understandable. But
yeah,
the developers.
In terms of difficulty, maps like this that you guys started out with, how does it compare to the original, like, actual Taiko, if you know at all?
So this gets into something a little bit we're going to talk about later.
Oh, okay. I'm getting it.
I'll explain anyway. So basically, considering early on, a lot of the difficulties were done that were kind of based on authentic. A lot of difficulties that were made early on in Taiko's lifespan were very, very conservative and sticking to that specific style of mapping that was in Taiko no Tatsujin.
Sure, which makes sense.
Yeah, which obviously, considering it was still relatively new to a lot of people, it made sense to stick with what worked, right?
Yeah.
It led to some issues down the line, but like I said, we'll talk about that a little later.
Okay.
So, what else is it you wanted to know in particular about that?
Well, we're finishing up the video. I'm largely watching the end here. Wow, Cyclone was pretty good, honestly. I didn't even realize, but all right. Yeah, I was watching it without sound. Yeah, no, that is old. It's such a nostalgic moment for me, even, because that's that's after I started, late 2008. So
yeah, anyone that remembers that old client's been around for a while.
Yeah. Okay, so initially started out as a mod. How did people map for it back then? How did that work?
It actually hasn't really changed a whole lot since then, except for a couple of things. So the way you map Taiko is pretty much the same as it would usually be. You would like claps or whistles for cats, which is the blue note. and no hit sound for dons or the red note. And then sliders or drum rolls would be pretty much sliders. Back in the day, which you saw in the video there, sliders actually were a little different than they are today. Sliders today have slider ticks that you're supposed to hit in order to get points from them. But back in the day, there was no slider ticks on those sliders, and you could just mash the heck out of them just like you could in Taiko no Tatsuki.
I remember that. Yeah.
It led to its own skew of problems, such as people kind of abusing certain
Yeah. No, I remember playing back then and thinking, wow, this is pretty abusable. I was really bad, so it wasn't relevant for me, but...
Yeah, Taiko back then had a couple things like that.
But mapping isn't done in like a specific editor. It's just, you know, like Catch the Beat. You have to kind of know what the result is going to be of what you're putting on the screen.
Yep. Thankfully, Taiko, like, what you put on the screen was pretty simple. The only thing, like, is back in the day, it didn't automatically change the color of the note, so it would be easy to tell. So if you wanted to know what was a don and what was a cat, you had to actually do like the color change and combo color change and stuff like that to make it work.
And for people that don't know, what dons and cats, can you elaborate?
Okay. Yeah, so I'll say it again. So dons are the red notes in Taiko, and cats are the blue notes in Taiko. So this is Katsudon right here.
Been hiding it between your legs.
Yeah. But yeah, for mapping, like, mapping Taiko is pretty simple. You literally just place the note, set the hit sound, and then it determines, based on the hit sound, whether it's a don or a cat. And that's really all there is to it.
You map in one spot, because you don't have to... There's no spacing in terms of... Like Catch the Beat would have.
Yeah, like you can put the note wherever you want.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
You can put it anywhere.
Okay, so let's see. 2009, and until when would you say that really lasted, the initial inception of...
I would say it lasted until as late as 2011, like late 2011, because when I joined, there still was like not really a whole lot of Taiko maps. Like we didn't have ranked Taiko sets then,
right?
And a lot of the difficulties that we did have that were ranked for Taiko were guess difficulties, because we, like I said, we didn't have an actual set of rules for ranking Taiko sets.
Yeah.
So you would see like 1 or 2 difficulties in a map set that were Taiko difficulties, and they were usually significantly harder than what most people could play, because the people that were coming in and playing are usually people that had already played Taiko before.
Oh, okay, so it was really hard to get into because there was no difficulty that you could start out at comfortably.
Yeah, unless you knew somebody that was like already into Taiko and had like a link to all the Aqua Blue and Zakira and all those maps.
Right.
If you and Crystal Suicune, if you didn't have links to those maps, you were pretty much only playing converts. And I'm gonna be honest with you, like converts did not teach you how to play Taiko.
Yeah,
they just flat out don't.
Yeah, because there's no meta to it, or any thought specifically that follows the general guidelines as to how things are done.
You'll understand this better than anybody. So you know how in standard, a lot of the hit sounding is literally just you have claps on the upbeat, so it'd be like 1 clap, 2 clap, kind of thing, right?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, that's literally all. Every time that you would hear a clap, that's a cat. So all you would ever have is like dun 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 cat, dun 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 cat, and it's just like you wouldn't have any other patterns anywhere. It would always be the same patterns.
Because they use that to convert it.
Yeah, so you would basically learn no patterns at all, and it would make it really hard to actually learn how to play.
And then you play a proper difficulty, and you're like, what even is this?
Yeah, exactly. And what made it even worse is when it comes to converting the maps, slider velocity is actually what affects how fast the notes scroll in Taiko.
Okay.
Whereas in standard, that's not the case. In standard, you have the sliders be like longer or shorter based on the slider velocity, and the approach rate would change how fast the notes would come in.
Right.
So considering approach rate does nothing in Taiko, and slider velocity kind of had a lot of changes and stuff, sometimes you'd have notes that would just go zoom right across the screen because it was like there'd be a '2 slider velocity somewhere in there.
I like the visualization there. Okay, so that's when 2011 is where we're at in the timeline. That's when the first Taiko World Cup rolled around by Lepidopodus. I'm not That's a hard name to say.
Lepidopodus.
Lepidopodus? Okay.
Lepidopodus.
How did that go?
Again, this is a little bit before my time, so
Sure.
I don't know a whole lot about that. I do know that back then there wasn't enough people that were actually taking part, so the countries were actually allowed to combine, right? So you were back
cool.
then, like in the original tournaments, you had people that were playing from, like, say, the United States that they were from the United States and they were playing for, like, the United Kingdom or something like that.
Oh, it's not even like geographically.
Yeah,
close,
it wasn't even
whatever you
geographic, it's just
want.
like, who wants to play? You know, it doesn't really matter
Which
where.
is how you start out. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it was mostly back then we had a lot of Japanese players, so we had like 2 Japanese teams, 2 Taiwanese teams, 2 Hong Kong teams. A lot of the teams that are actually still strong today that had a lot of players back then.
Yeah. Yeah, because the main player base for Taiko is Japanese, right? Because that's where the game originated.
Yeah.
Okay, so then 2012 rolls around, called the Golden Age. Why is it called the Golden Age? I'm assuming it's because it turned into a proper mode.
So I didn't name that, but
the historians did that.
So this is around when I arrived. Okay, so like 2011, I was still playing standard, and then 2012, I'm like, ooh, this Taiko mode looks fun, so let's play this. So this is around the time that, like, we started getting a lot of change happening in the community. We started getting a lot more mappers for the mode. We started getting people that were making a lot more guest difficulties for sets. Some big changes that happened were we finally got our own text channel. So for anyone that doesn't know this, that wasn't around way back when, there was no hashtag Taiko or hashtag CTB back in early 2012.
Right.
This didn't get implemented until later. We used to have video games. That was the channel. That was the channel that you would get sent to if you talked about Taiko or Catch the Beat in OS.
Stop talking about mini games. Go to hashtag video games.
Yeah, pretty
Please.
much. It was pretty great. So you had like
pretty great in
brand new Taiko
hindsight. I
player.
can imagine that being super frustrating at the time.
So like I'm brand new Taiko player. Just to give an example here, brand new Taiko player. Hey, anyone here play Taiko in OS chat? Go to video games. Go to video games, and you're like, hey, anyone here play Taiko? And then back then it was literally just all CTV players that sat in there. Like, nobody plays that dead game mode. Go away. Like, this is our chat. Leave us alone.
That's so sad. So everyone was kind of just shoved aside. Wow, it was hard. That's like overcoming like the hardest obstacle in life, I feel, getting into Taiko in 2012 or before. It seems like everything was against you.
Yeah, everything at that point was still pretty much in its infancy in terms of Taiko. We didn't really have a whole lot back then, and the mode still hadn't really developed to what it is today, of course.
Sure.
But I gotta say, it was definitely awesome when we finally got that channel, because we ended up fighting for it quite a bit. We're like, okay, we gotta have some place to talk about this game, right? Like, it's part of OS. There's got to be some place to have some kind of conversation about it.
Did that coincide with it turning into a properly recognized game mode?
I do believe that in a sense it did kind of coincide a little bit. It got implemented around the same time that the Taiko World Cup ended up happening. So
sure, okay.
It kind of gave people the place to talk about the Taiko World Cup without flooding OS, I guess, is the best way to describe it.
Right.
So it kind of it was a really good timing for it to happen.
Yeah, everyone had a little independence party.
Yeah. And it also got Catch the Beat their own channel too, so I'm sure they were happy about that.
Oh yeah. So they no longer have to share the channel with the filthy Taikoians. I was trying to.
Filthy
I tried.
Game players.
Video game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first Taiko rules were approved. Taiko sets were rankable.
Yep. So
the first proper, rankable Taiko sets started getting introduced, along with the fact that it turned into a proper game mode.
Mm-hmm. So the first rules were kind of pushed forward by, I want to say, Ono? Yeah, I think it was Ono that was starting to really push the first set of rules through.
Yeah, I actually went through the threads from 2013. It was, I think, where it was a lot about the bats and how the bats for what was it? there were no initial bats for Taiko specifically, just for like general.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we basically had like A, B, C, and a couple of other people that were standard BAT that were doing stuff for Taiko that knew Taiko, so it made it like a little easier to get guest difficulties pushed through and whatnot.
Right.
But yeah, after the first Taiko rules got approved, we started finally getting our first sets. That was when the game started to really grow, I think. So the first actual ranked Taiko set was Red Goose by Lepidopodus, and we finally had like a full set of Kantan through Oni. So for anyone that doesn't know the difficulty curve for Taiko, it goes Kantan, Futsu, Muzukashi, Oni, Inner Oni, insert whatever the heck you want to name your custom difficulty here.
Okay.
Before that, like I said, you generally only had guest difficulties that were usually all at Oni level, so you're basically only seeing Insanes for Taiko that were actual Taiko maps, you know?
I'm a bit jealous
of
other modes' difficulty names, like the CTB, what is it? It ends with, there's a salad difficulty.
There's like salad, platter, salad, or something like that.
Gives a little bit more color.
Those names are awesome, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also the Mania lingo, like the noodles and the rice. I feel like Standard's kind of missing out on the meme names.
Oh man.
Okay, so that's 2012. I can imagine a bunch of new people flooded in around that time as a result of that.
Yeah, so like because we had the channel, we started seeing a lot more people that were interested in the game, and it coincided with Taiko World Cup, like we were talking about. So
yeah.
Just all that stuff happening at the same time kind of brought in a lot of new players that were interested in the game. However, after that, it kind of slowed down a little bit.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. So the mapping scene, like when rankable sets started coming in, started to grow, as anyone would guess.
Sure.
But after that initial spurt of growing, it kind of died down a little bit for a couple of years. We didn't really get as many maps getting pushed through for a couple different reasons. One of the main reasons being that the people that had been involved with the ranking process for Taiko at that time were pretty conservative in their ideals about what made a good Taiko map.
Okay. Because they were largely people that played the original, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So to give you an example of what I mean, we were going to be talking about like gimmick maps and stuff like that, right? A gimmick map would have never happened back then.
Yeah.
Just never. It was slider velocity 1.4, 1.6 if you were doing like a.
If you were going crazy.
Map. And anything else, no. You're not allowed to do any other slider velocities. Don't touch it. It's bad. We will not rank your map if you do it, kind of thing.
Very basic patterns.
Yeah, it was basic patterns or bust.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
And basic patterns basically, and just the snapping didn't go up further than 1/4. Basically.
Yeah.
And then there was also like finishers. So finishers are the big notes in Taiko. So you know how you have like the small notes and then you have the big notes. The big notes weren't allowed to be used after like a 1/4 snap stream. So you had to have.
Because it was supposedly too hard?
Because it caused overlap.
Oh.
Literally just because it caused overlap.
Gotcha.
So you weren't allowed to do that.
Can't have that.
Yeah, so no overlap allowed, and we don't want players to have a double tap a note, like, so you don't have to do like Dawn and then Dawn and Dawn at the same time on your left and right hand, which would, for people was somehow weird. I don't know why.
Imagine putting in effort. No, I get people.
Actually, I agree.
I feel like it's going. That's across game modes. You know, I feel like it's a pretty recent thing for, in general, in mapping and being much more accepted to be gimmicky. Which is a nice trend, I like it. Okay, so, yeah, this is kind of where Raiden comes in. You kind of walked in when things were good. When things were already established.
Well, actually, after what Carter mentioned about the 2013 and 2014 being stagnant.
Right.
Mainly old people, says the Taiko BAT was actually a thing. The mode split between the BATs. And all that stuff. But then in 2014, what happened was basically that after the BAT split on the QAT and the bitmap nominators.
Mm-hmm.
As a side note, the bitmap nominators at the beginning had the same issue, so to speak, as the BATs. They were not mode specific. So the QETs, the QET members of the original QET members for Taiko were Onosaki and Middens, MMZZ.
Onosaki's really been there throughout the years.
Yeah, definitely.
Crazy.
Okay, but here comes his double H, like the time where he was really conservative and he really enforced stuff.
Okay.
Like he really enforced his view of mapping on.
Gotta have that 1.4.
Yeah.
Can't have those finishers.
Yeah,
I mean, when something's starting out, you need that consistency. I feel only once that's established properly, you can kind of start deviating comfortably.
Yeah, and we agree with that too. I think at the time it was definitely required, especially from the 2009 to like 2014 era, where people really didn't have any idea what the heck they were doing with mapping.
To legitimize, what you're doing.
Yeah.
Sure.
And around 2014, it got a lot better. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Raiden.
Yeah, no. As I was saying, the QET thingy, the original QETs were Ono and Middens, and Ono basically disqualified anything that he didn't like.
Okay.
That's standard. No, that's literally what used to happen.
Yeah.
And he got in a lot of fights, of course. But
wow.
it all basically ended when the QET was basically stripped from his powers of checking by their own after the asymmetry fiasco, which affected basically all the modes.
Can you give a little bit of context for the asymmetry fiasco? Because people might recognize that asymmetry was a situation, but
yeah. Well, what asymmetry was a standard map, which was slightly controversial.
It was fun. I like the song too.
Yeah, let's leave it to slightly controversial.
Yeah.
And it was continuously disqualified due to apparently subjective issues presented by the QET. And the fifth DQ, I think
it was a ton. It was so many.
Yeah,
it kept getting ranked or like approved. I don't remember what it was back then, but then disqualified.
Qualified and disqualified. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Like a million times.
Yeah, and the community just outraged a bit, and Peppy basically just showed up and
what is
basically
this down?
Yeah.
He did Peppy things. We'll just leave it at that.
We just leave it. He did Peppy things, and then right afterwards, Locked Up created a thread to report bitmaps, and basically the QET's job now was just to check those reports.
Right, rather than go out of their way to check every single thing that's got qualified.
Exactly.
Sure.
I mean, the QET could still do that, but they had to report it like any normal user.
Right.
So if you're for another QET member to check that.
Can you give for people that might not be too familiar with mapping, what's a BN, what's a QAT, just in a short summary so people have a little bit of context.
Okay, Bpm nominators are basically the group that is in charge of sending the maps to rank. They have 2 nominations. I mean, when the map has received enough modding and is good to go to ranked, it receives a nomination from Bpm nominator 1. And then right afterwards, the nominator 2, because every map now requires 2 nominations. This is a modding B2, of course. And it goes to qualified.
Check.
Yeah, and it goes to qualified for approximately 7 days, depending on the backlog of the qualified page. And basically, if anyone of the community finds an issue with the map, they can mod the map. They can like write in the thread that, hey, this is wrong. This shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Or the timing is wrong or whatever. And they report the map, and then the QET checks the report. Is it valid? If so, they disqualify the map and give time to the mapper to discuss things or to fix or anything. If it's not, it is checked as well, but it's you can just shrug it off and say it's not valid because it's too subjective, or the mapper already responded correctly,
Right.
following the card count and all the shit. And the QET basically has evolved from checking maps actively to
just responding to whatever gets reported which
reactively.
I can't imagine the workload that it used to be, especially. So I feel like it's a logical progression.
Pretty much.
Okay. TNA, which is a Taiko specific thing, I think. I might be wrong.
It is.
Okay.
I'll leave this one all to Raiden. This is all him. This is all him.
I feel like I opened a can of worms, but
yeah. Ono's going to hate me so much. But yeah, okay. TNA was basically if you put the flowchart above, it would be much easier to understand.
The flowchart of the mapping.
Yeah, the TNA.
Yeah, sure.
I think,
okay. Let me pull that up.
The flowchart. It's pretty easy, really. If you just so basically every Thursday, I think it was, or depending on the mood of the of the Bpm nominators. No, that's not the chart. I think it's the TNA.
Oh, the flowchart.
The flowchart. The flowchart.
I can pull it up,
that
but
would have been a good thing to show a little earlier, actually, when we were talking about the activity.
We'll just show it at the end, I guess.
Yeah.
It was really hard to because it was so much information. I'll put it up, but it's really hard to see, even with a white background. Here, I'll upsize it a little bit.
I guess it was a little hard to see. Oh, I cannot read.
Oh my god, yeah.
I cannot read anything.
Do you want me to take it down?
Okay.
It's good with full screen. It's good with full screen. Without that, you're having trouble.
Okay. Anyway, so the TNA was basically created with very good intentions because the BNG the time was really stagnant. People weren't really sure that they were going to receive a check.
Sure.
There were only 8 Bpm nominators in total for Taiko. Only 8, and they were not the most active. Let's just leave it at that.
Right.
So yeah, what the initiative Onosaki had was like to create some sort of association, and get the volunteers in, and when every Thursday they would open a queue and take I think it was 2 or 3 maps. But in order to request a map, you had to mod other 3 maps, either 3 maps or 1 map from the special list. I'll get to the special list later.
Okay.
Okay. So you were fast enough. If you were fast enough to catch the queue, you were then the map was then taken and revised by, I think it was 2 members of the Bpm nominators. And if the map was deemed good enough, like to nominate without too much checking,
sure,
it was accepted. If it was maybe not good enough.
So that was to kind of speed up the amount of maps that went through.
Yeah.
Right.
And the map, as I was saying earlier, would be sent to the special list.
Okay.
Yeah, the rejected map. So basically
the special list.
That's it was. I don't ask
funny.
me. I just
funny name.
Like the special list was just the idea, I guess, of like, this is a map that's like higher priority because it's been checked once already.
Yeah.
So let's like get this thing finished and ranked. I think that was the general idea, and it's why if you checked one of those maps, then they would check one of your maps instead of having to check 3 maps.
Exactly.
Okay.
So anyway, so the flowchart is actually pretty easy to understand. You mod 3 maps or 1 special, and every week, if you are fast enough, because now to talk about it, that was one of the flaws. If you are fast enough, your request is good enough, you get it not modded and nominated.
Okay.
If not, it gets spot on the special list, and so on. And that was a cycle.
Okay.
Okay, so now we go to the bad part, the downsides. Okay, the first and most important problem was what I was mentioning, that you had to be fast, because when the queue opened, it was like 2 maps or 3.
Yeah.
And it would close in 1 minute. So basically, people with a life, people with normal lives, couldn't really rank anything unless they got external.
I mean, we're
help.
talking Osu players here.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Okay. So no, don't worry. So anyway, there were Bpm nominators that were outside of the TNA. Those two at the time were Taske and myself.
Okay.
We joined it once to just help a bit with it, but basically the problem with it was like it didn't really do its full purpose, which was increasing the actual quality, because I as a bitmap nominator then felt the quality was very similar.
Okay.
So
it was a cool idea in theory, but in practice it didn't work out as well as intended.
It could work. I believe we needed more people.
Okay.
Another problem that it kind of ended up having is because it was so limited, and it was basically, it would open every 2 weeks. A lot of the BN were actually, a lot of the BAT or whatever were actually involved. BNs. It changed so much over the years, you know. So a lot of the people that were BNs were actually in this program. So if you were trying to get a map ranked, but you didn't want to go specifically through this program, and you wanted to talk with, like, say, somebody that was outside of it, your options were extremely limited. Yeah. And if you try to talk to any of the guys that were involved in this, they'd say, "Oh, well, you got to go do this. Oh, wait, the queue's full. Well, that's too bad. You're gonna have to wait until it's open again." And then, as we were talking about, it would fill within a minute, right?
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's one thing I forgot to say about the downside was like Onosaki explicitly forbid the BNs from the TNA to take requests outside.
He sounds like a man with an iron fist.
In
general,
it was actually with intention to make the BNs not burn out and stop working in the TNA.
Right.
Like all of it was good intention. There was no bad intention.
Totally, of course, everyone wants to move it forward.
Certainly good.
Okay.
I think that's about it with the TNA.
And how long did that last? Yeah, that was literally.
I can't recall right now the dismissal. I think it was a few months, didn't it? Half a year, maybe.
I want to say it lasted for like 6 months or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
So it was given a good attempt.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, definitely.
I think it eventually turned into like a lack of interest in the actual program itself, and people just started doing their own thing. I don't think people liked that you couldn't go and mod stuff outside of the program. So
anything that's very limited tends to initially it's exciting, and then it kind of, once you realize how restrictive stuff is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're at the end of 2015. So the whole TNA was brought into existence kind of to combat the stagnation of players, or purely the map quality?
No. It was to cope with the very little Bpm nominators that there were.
Right. Okay.
Because we barely got any. Because we were like, well, I will talk about it later, but we were like 8 BNs until 2017, basically.
Wow, that's not a lot. Okay. Okay, so we're in 2016, beginning of a new meta.
Yeah.
What does that entail?
I personally think this started around 2015 because we started getting maps like Origami, but basically around, I'm going to say 2015, we started getting Origami, Galaxy Collapse, a bunch of these really hard maps. It started like shifting the focus from let's try and make the gap for the lower levels a little better, like from Kanton to like basic Onis, to let's start pushing the harder players, because it used to be those were mostly unranked stuff that you would never see ever get into ranked. Yeah.
Which used to be a thing in standard as well for a very long time.
Yeah. So like this stuff started to get ranked. It was mostly Sayaka maps at first, and then we started getting people that were mapping stuff that gave a lot of performance points just based off of the patterns that were being used. The first the first general example of this that anyone knows is XU. So XU is the pretty low BPM map. It was like 174 BPM or something like that. And it uses a lot of what's called 1-4-1-6 patterns. So what that means is if anyone's familiar with the editor has 1-4 snapping, 1-6 snapping, all that kind of stuff. So a 1-4 pattern is generally, 1-4-1-6 pattern is generally a quad 1-6 followed by a single 1-4, and then you would repeat that. So it would be like 1-6, 1-4, 1-6, 1-4, 1-6.
That sounds like a pain. That sounds so easy to trip up on in terms of timing.
It's kind of like I want to say it's like a paradiddle in drumming, but
People in standard already had like, oh my god, a 1/3. Please, Lord, save me.
something other than 1/4 snapping. Oh God, what's happening?
No, pretty much.
That was the reaction for a lot of people when those kind of maps started to get ranked at first, and like even I want to say as far back as when I started pushing like those maps, because I did maps like that in 2012, 2013 with Scars in the Earth, where I'd put some 1/6 into my maps, and people hated it back then.
You were promptly shunned. Even
Yeah, like,
even
people
shunned
didn't like
from
that
video
stuff
game hashtag video games, just thrown out the community.
Because you get like a lot of people like, I really like the map, but why is there 1/6 here? And it's like, well, I like to have at least some challenge in the map.
And Osaki just hated you at the too progressive.
The funny thing is like as much as like Ono and I respect each other a lot, but we have such different opinions about this game that it's crazy. So anyway, mapping meta. So it really started changing into this 1/4, 1/6 mapping where what most people call nowadays PP mapping.
Oh god,
where
dirty
it's
word.
basically
Dirty word.
Yeah, I know.
Close your ears.
Dirty word.
Can I pull up the
children.
graph with that for the mapping?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
Go for it.
Sure.
This time I got the right one.
As we were talking about, like mapping kind of picked up around the time that we started getting like the Taiko channel and whatnot, and then it died down a little bit. Like as people, like there was less people that were doing the mapping, and it was a focus of people that were generally working on it. And I think through this period of time, quality of mapping started going up, like quite a bit. When we started getting to the point where it stagnated, like because we weren't getting any harder difficulties, people started experimenting with harder stuff, and that's, as you can see, like around the time where mapping was at kind of its low.
Sure.
And then once we started getting the really hard stuff ranked, which was when we started getting things like Galaxy Collapse, like that was in 2015, but we had Galaxy Collapse and the Cabrio maps. There's a particular map I'm trying to think of. Raiden, you know which one it is.
Barrio map?
Yeah, the
Necrophagitos?
Necrophagitos, and there's another one I can't remember.
Magical Sanctuary?
Yeah, that one. So like once we started getting maps like that, it skyrocketed really fast. It's also the time that we started getting gimmick maps. For anyone that doesn't know what gimmick maps are a treat. So all the rules you know about Taiko change.
We're talking like Aspire, but not nearly as crazy. But in that direction, just gimmicky, literally. I'm assuming. How does that work in Taiko? I can you give a? Is that
okay? So I'll give a general example of a gimmick in Taiko that doesn't require a storyboard, just for the sake of like explaining. So one kind of gimmick you'll see people take a slider, make it 0 length, so it'll actually just be like the same size as the note, and then they'll overlap that slider with the note.
Okay.
And sliders appear over top of notes, so it'll actually hide the color of the note.
Oh.
And what you'll see people do
That's
is
interesting.
Like sometimes you'll have a section where it's like all of the cats are hidden behind these sliders.
Does that make it literally unreadable unless you check the editor, or is that something you can tell based on the flow of the map?
It's something you can tell based on the flow of the map. Like once you've seen it the first time, you'll generally understand how it works.
Yeah.
And it gets really cool when they start messing. Like Katachet is the best example of this stuff. So the map that we linked you earlier with the video, unfortunately you can't show.
Perfect mech class.
Yeah, Cerno's perfect mass class. Is it okay if I link it in OS Live, or can I even do that? I don't think I can. I'm gonna try. Okay, I got deleted, but I tried. Basically, it shows a lot of the different gimmicks that started be shown. The slider one was pretty common, where you would have like Dawns hidden behind, and then it would flip it, and it would be cats that were hidden behind these slider notes. And it was really, really cool to actually like play.
Yeah.
And then you had a common early gimmick, which was hyperspeed notes, taken a step further, and you would have things like a double line. So normally you'd have like a single bar line. What this mapper would do is they would put a double bar line where there would be a hidden note. So you would have sections where it would be like Don Don double line, and there's no actual note visible there, but there is a note there. It was always the same note every time. It would always be like a Don or a cat finisher or something like that, and it would be great. Those maps
just listening to the explanation hurts my brain.
Yeah. You can explain the 0 BPM notes. Those are actually very good too.
Oh yeah, so 0 BPM notes are quite literally what they sound like. They are notes that are set at 0 BPM. What ends up happening when you set 0 BPM notes in Taiko is the notes go right on top of the hit area, and they don't move. They just stay there for the entire map until you actually get to the point where you hit them.
Oh no! That sounds so weird. In cool readable use scenarios of this, you would have some kind of part in the map that would kind of give you an idea of what's going to happen later. Yeah.
So like you'd have a repeating pattern that would happen during a certain section where it'd be like really simple Don cat, like at 1-2 snap, and this would repeat, and like the third time that comes up, there'll be nothing that you see on the screen.
Okay.
But you have to hit those like on the 0 BPM.
That's always really interesting how mappers implement the flow to be able to determine how the gimmick is going to be played.
Yeah, for sure. There was a lot of fun stuff that got introduced in that year.
We do have to move stuff along a little bit. Just got told about the time. We're a little bit behind schedule. We're talking a lot longer than I expected. Hence why, which is good. Okay, so second half of so this is kind of up until now the last little part. Second huge wave of new people. What do you think is the reason behind that? Was there any particular event?
I guess this one is on me.
Yeah, I kind of quit for a bit during this time. So
if we're talking about 2017, we are.
Yes.
Okay. Wait. If we are talking about 2017, it basically is the lowering of the standards of the bitmap nominator tests, which are a whole different thing, basically.
In terms to become a BN.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
to become a nominator. And what happened?
Didn't work, man. No.
What basically happened is that the bitmap nominator tests were apparently considered a bit too hard, so they lowered the standards from 70 points to 65. So then we basically had in two rounds, which which were 4 months, I think, because they were alternating every month. So a month was standard, another month was the other 3, and so on. So basically, in 2 rounds, we basically tripled the number of BNs. So that gave a lot of ways to other mappers with different styles and all the stuff to rise up.
Okay, that's cool.
To get stuff to ranked.
Yeah.
So there's basically the second huge wave because of the
as a result, then more people came in because, more activity in terms of mapping means more players.
Exactly.
Okay, and that's kind of where we're at now. Is that still a thing that's very active, or is it a thing you see slow down?
I think it's slowed down a bit because we are actually we have 20 bitmap nominators. We have the most of all non-standard modes, but we are still behind Catch the Beat a bit unqualified.
Okay,
but that's just, but that's not exactly the problem. But the problem is rather that we have the same amount of qualified maps than we had when we were 12 or 13.
Yeah.
So maybe it's time to do a quick activity check.
But overall, you'd say that Taiko's at a good point right now?
I think it is.
At its best?
I would honestly say Taiko right now is at its best in terms of the availability.
Okay.
Yeah. In terms of in terms of diversity and probability of getting your stuff ranked, much higher, 1,000-fold higher than.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of I feel like it's kind of like that for every mode, especially Catch the Beat as well. We did the Gamemode showcase for that. They also said right now is kind of the best area, best time. So that's awesome.
It kind of is.
Yeah, we'll do the community questions. We'll not spend too much time on each one so we can get into the live drawings.
Yeah, we gotta go to the drawings.
Yeah, I'll just read are you guys sticking with me for the drawings?
I
think so.
I don't mind, I guess.
I think I must leave and come back to the showcase of map pool.
Okay, sure. Let's see. Okay, so I'll read the question and then whoever feels comfortable can go ahead.
Okay.
How do you feel Taiko's progressed with the mapping quality? Specifically, how do you feel about the rise of harder maps, but also the rise of more inflated maps, PP-wise?
I guess I'll take this one. So I will definitely say that the quality of mapping has gone up significantly over the years. From the days of Sushi's Eat 'em Up and Mechadon's Shinsekai to what we have now is quite great. Obviously, no offense to those mappers; they're both great mappers. But
sure,
it's gone up so much. Hey, Sushi actually is a great mapper.
Yeah,
that's just one map. But for the rise of like performance point maps, I don't really agree with that because I think that it's kind of like people have adjusted to how star rating works in the game and they're kind of mapping around that maybe, but the maps are still hard. It's just that people are focusing on the things that are overinflated because of length.
Right.
Length is the biggest inflator. Like 1416 isn't that big of a deal, but with that plus length, it changes it quite a bit.
Okay. Do you think playstyle affects mapping?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but I guess it depends on the mapper. I usually you don't usually ask the mapper, "Are you a KDDK?" because it shows on the map. Do you really do that anytime? I don't think you do. I guess I think at least.
As an example, I'm a DDKK player myself, and that what it basically means is that I play with my reds on my left hand and my blues on my right hand.
Right.
And I still map things that are really hard for my play style to play, which is basically mono stream. So anything that's got a long stream of red notes or a long stream of blue notes, which is usually a telltale sign that you're a DDKK mapper is if you avoid doing those kind of patterns.
Okay.
The same way KDDK players.
Like what a standard player would see as a conventional stream would be hard, because I can imagine Taiko has a higher BPM generally for those types of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does. But I don't think it really makes a difference.
Like maybe in a couple areas, but not overall. Yeah. Not like a whole different.
No, not at all. I think.
Has the Taiko World Cup become more or less enjoyable as the years go by, do you feel? I mean, obviously not talking about the initial one, because neither of you guys were there for it, but overall, over the years.
I've played in most of them since I started playing Taiko, so I'd say that
quick riser.
For me personally, and this is why this is like a really personal question, honestly. I thought that the 2014 and 2015, like 2014 through 2016 were pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
2017.
What made it good specifically? Was it a map pool thing or like a competition thing?
It was the map pool thing. I think the best year was when they first implemented double elimination. That was the best year for Taiko World Cups, in my opinion.
Double elimination is always fun.
And then 2017 was good, but hard. Like really, really hard, as into the point. You had players that were from Japan that were actually struggling on some of these maps. And Japan is, for anyone that doesn't know, like anything about Taiko has been living under a complete rock, is really, really good at the game, to the point that no other country right now really stands up to them.
Like the South Korea of Mania.
Yeah, that's a really apt description.
I'm excited to see that, because I've never really fully followed any cup other than standard, and now I have, so it's really fun to see the different dynamics for each mode. So I'm excited for to see some Japan shenanigans.
But yeah, I'll say that 2017 was fun, but the finals pool, I feel like might not have been tested very well.
Do we fail within 10 seconds on this map? Okay, put it in. Okay, so what is your guys' view on the player base versus the mapper base of Taiko? It seems like Taiko's gaining mappers and losing players more often than not. Do you think that is true?
I guess for 2017 that might be true because we lost a lot of players for this, like from 2017 to this World Cup, we were losing a lot of players.
Yeah, we did.
And obviously, as we saw in the graph, we're getting a lot more maps.
Yeah.
Every year before that, I don't think that's the case. I think we were getting a lot more players and we were getting less maps. I don't really know how what else to add to that question, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think basically the same. That after the 2017 map pool, many people felt like, why even play more if the next year is gonna be even harder? I'm not gonna.
Oh no!
I can't catch
so
up.
sad.
I can't catch up. So I give up and I'm gonna start mapping. So that's my rationale.
That's a very defeatist point of view. Okay. What do you think about Hidden Hard Rock in Score V1, and would you like to see it change in Score V2?
Okay, so I'll flat out say Score V2 Hidden Hard Rock is infinitely better than Score V1.
What makes it? What makes it so? What makes it that way?
Okay, so in Score V1 Hidden Hard Rock, normally when you put hidden on Taiko, there's a specific view area. So I'm just gonna use my camera here.
I always like your visuals, so
I don't know if it's okay. So
you even have the the plushie to hold up. No, let's not make it too elaborate. I'm joking.
You have about one Katsudon of length from the screen that you have like visible. So like, kind of like that. So like this area is visible. It gets cut in half.
Right.
When you apply Hard Rock.
It's like Flashlight and Mania, kind of.
Yeah. The thing is like it's really weird because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense that Hard Rock makes it hidden harder.
Exactly.
It already increases the scroll speed.
Okay.
So it's already naturally harder, but it also cuts the area in half. So it basically gives you like a fifth of a second to recognize what color the node is with Score V1. Whereas in Score V2, it doesn't change the area that you see. It actually stays the same as if it was just hidden.
Right.
So in Score V2, it's significantly easier to read, and it still applies the same challenge that you'd get from Hard Rock, which I think is a lot better. Okay.
Would you say you agree with that, Raiden?
I definitely do. I mean, I never tried to play Hidden Hard Rock because of this. Because, as Carol said, it just makes it basically impossible to recognize the note unless you have very fast eyes or very good memory.
Or 144 hertz monitor, am I right?
Even with 144 hertz monitor, it doesn't really help.
Because people think it fixes everything.
I know, right? I actually have an old thread in the suggestions forum from like 2014 bringing up this exact issue. Like, make Hidden Hard Rock the same as Hidden, please, like, for the view area.
Okay, have there been any redefining moments in Taiko history that greatly affected either the playing or the mapping scene? Hyperdash in Osu Catch is one of the things that really changed that scene. As Taiko, well, you mentioned the slider change as an example.
Yeah, earlier.
Yes, so you can't mash sliders anymore, which changed the scoring system pretty much entirely. I think there was like a score wipe when that happened. And then
oh wow,
there was also the Gimmick Map stuff.
Yeah.
The Gimmick Map stuff was pretty cool because you get into all the really fun slider velocity stuff and all the other cool things you can do with the editor that unfortunately some of them are going away in laser, but
yeah,
I think those are the biggest.
And in Score V2, man, because in Score V2, missing spinners or sliders counts as a miss. So in Score V2, like those gimmick maps are actually possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Do we want to do the last one? Please share your thoughts on Taikonator and Mocha. I guess let's do it. Okay, so for people that are unaware, let me pull it up.
This is the best mascot right here. Okay?
the only one needed. I know we're out of time. I just really quickly want to hear what you guys have to say about it because it's such a meme. Here, I put Taikonator up, and first, he is. I mean, it is a glorious design. I'm not gonna lie. And like, I don't even have context for where he came from.
And it was born on the mascot contest.
Yeah.
And it was one of the entries, basically.
God.
So people were like, yeah. So they were like, hey, let's make a new mascot for Taiko. and this was one of the submissions, and it was basically like the most popular community one.
Yeah.
Obviously didn't end up winning, and I think it got like 8th or something like that in terms of total votes. But it was definitely a community favorite because there was so many different. There's like you can actually find YouTube videos of people doing things like there was some like 18+ YouTube Taikonator thing. I'm not even joking. Yeah, that was a pretty interesting. The Mocha, I thought the Mocha one was actually really good. I think you actually have the.
Yeah, I do. It's right here. Yeah, no, she's cute. We have emotes of her as well. Let me.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so it's not the original drawing. That's the finalized design, I'm guessing. So that one there, I really did like that. I thought that was one of the better ones. I voted for that and 2 others that were really good.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it's no Taikonator, but you know.
Yeah. It's also no Pippidon. I mean, what are you gonna do without Pippidon? Come on. I still have Pippidon, man.
If I recall correctly, some of the designers wanted to do something with the Kiai, where she would like stick out a Taikonator or something. Okay, I mean, but I think they scrapped it.
Little elaborate. Yeah,
they scrapped it in the end.
All right, no, I just wanted to cover that really quick. Yeah, no, we're gonna go ahead and go into the live drawings. I'm gonna say goodbye to you guys for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we will reconvene in another voice channel.
A little longer for me. I'll be back to the showcase.
Sure. Okay.
Stick around and enjoy them live drawings, folks.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me. That was very enjoyable.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah. And see you guys soon.
See you around.
All right. Let's see. Okay, we are going to go into the into the live drawings. I'm gonna go ahead and set stuff up. Run the credits for the coffee hour, then switch over to the live drawing stuff. Give us 5 to 10 minutes to set stuff up. Sorry that it ran a little bit longer. I hope it was enjoyable. I had a good time. I don't think it was a bad overextension in terms of time, because it was fun. So thank you guys for watching. We'll be back in about 5 to 10 minutes, guys. See you guys soon.